That feels as reasonable a place as any to press the stop the music there. I'll just let the encoder come back to life and then hope this works, because this was going a bit funny earlier. Hey, there we go. Oh, what is... There we go. Had a pogo stick at my feet for some reason, which is not what we were going for. Different, for sure. We are keeping tabs, of course, on the big game this evening, which we will talk about momentarily. Hopefully the chat is working again this week, because we know what madness that was last time, and it didn't work, for sure. Bit of a different warm-up question this week, because like the elite retro jerseys coming out from the Elite League, so interested to see what people think. What sort of retro jersey would you do? What season would you do? Etc. 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 Just making sure that this is in all the places that I want it to be. What I have forgotten is I have forgotten to put it there. Where is it? He says quickly go running to Discord. There we go. There we go. It's the joys of having to remember to put things in all the different places now, which is hard because it's very, very hard to automate stuff across all the different platforms. I can go that way. There we go. It's in all the usuals. It is there. Either way, we also need to click that button there because we need that on our screens as well. Mr. Day, good evening. Good to see you as ever. Yeah, I don't know what it is, and maybe I need to click a setting somewhere, but the clock on my phone is still very much out of sync with the clock on my laptop, which says it's 2 minutes faster than that. Either way, the new music appears to be working still on the intro, which is a really, really good start. Kings 93-94 white jersey. Oh, I mean, it would be. I think given that the Lightning have done a lot of Lightning retro ones, I think that makes a lot of sense. Jamie, I quite like that idea. Yes, hello, evening everybody. Folk coming in. Right, as I genuinely cannot tell what the time is because I have two clocks telling me two different times, which is very, very annoying. We will just, I think, get on with things, shall we? It's probably the best thing to do. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid, and all beyond the binary. It is Wednesday. It is 8 p.m. and welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to take you through the weird, wonderful, and wacky world that is British ice hockey. We cover the absolute lot of it, every game, every league. This is where British hockey lives on a Wednesday night on the BOTW What's Current stream. We do everything and everyone. Leeds to Lee Valley, Belfast to Bradford. Every game from across every senior division, men's and women's, from British hockey. We will touch on them all across the course of this evening. Good to see folk in the chat. I can see Andrew James there, obviously Lee's there, Jonathan Akers, Mr. 43 shots a game, Luca Tasadri in the chat. Which is always really good to see because yes, Luca, I did sit down and work out that you do face an average 43 shots a game, which is terrifying numbers. But and then of course, as we'll see later, 48 shots in him at the weekend. So you know, an above average performance from our friend up in Widnes. But I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everyone's doing well. Bit of a wonky weekend, as you saw. This has all come out of BOTW in terms of our output. But we are, of course, creeping ever closer to the big day itself. Less than a fortnight now. 13 days until the 15th birthday of Banners on the Wall. We will quickly smash our way through the housekeeping. So if you've been around here long enough and know the words, hum along. If you don't, then this is for you. Banners on the Wall at wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to British hockey. Follow me on my commentary journey this season as the voice of the live stream for the Guildford Flames. In the Box Thinking gives you your unique bit of insight and analysis into whatever game it is I've been commentating on at the weekend. And then you get whatever we got last weekend between Guildford and Fife, which was bonkers, which is why for the first time in 3 years we brought back Meme Edition. Used to be part of Running with the Herd, my Bison focus series when I was in Basingstoke every week. But yeah, just couldn't think what to do about this game, so we bought back meme editions. I do go and enjoy that, but still managed to write about 2 paragraphs worth of stuff on it anyway. But you do get a unique look from what it's like to be high above the Guildford spectrum in the commentary box there. And of course, there is Hockey Stories, our long form, in-depth pieces of content that give you tell some unique and different stories from around the world of ice hockey, from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war and beyond. You've got a fantastic amount of stuff to go check out over there. Of course, our most recent piece, setting the tone with Brad Bonello, former Edinburgh Capital, a guy who's had a fascinating hockey journey, and of course Sly Silvestri from Shawsey, and who's played in the Shawsey Classic, played on a line with Shawsey himself, Jared Key. So plenty of awesome stuff to go check out there. Got the next couple in pre-production. Got some. I'm properly actually working on some ideas. A few emails I need to drop because they're going to be multi-person sort of interview pieces. They'll be written. They're not going to be done by the 15th anniversary, but there will be a piece on the website to celebrate 15 years of BOTW when it for the 24th. And then of course there will be the Banners on the Wall big birthday party, which will be the What's Current stream on which will be the What's Current stream 2 weeks tonight on the 25th of March. We are blowing up the format for a night. Probably just gonna shoot the breeze, get some guests on. We'll kind of do it a bit different rather than just rather than doing the results in the same sort of usual way. I've got, like I say, I'll be sending out some messages to a few folk to see if I can get them on across the evening. We will have some fun to celebrate 15 years of this ridiculous writing hobby of mine that developed into everything that you see, where it is a weekly YouTube show that talks about every game across Britain, and it is a ridiculous amount of words written, and it is commentary and all sorts of crazy things. The other thing, of course, if you need to, down in the description of the YouTube video, you can check out all of our links. We're all the socials. We're on X. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Facebook as well to check us out there. And our virtual busking hat is over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. We're never going behind a paywall. But capitalism means that things cost money, and it's nice to be able to kind of reinvest into kind of what's going on here. So if you like what you see and you want to help contribute, please do pop over to the virtual busking hat at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. If you don't, you can't afford it, it's absolutely fine. By all means, all we ask is that, you know, share something out, stick something on your socials, point people, and they can also join the fun with us here on a Wednesday night. We do love our catch-up crew. We love our folk who kind of poke their heads in after the fact. However, if you're here live with us, it does mean you get to use the chat over there. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to throw in as we talk our way through the British hockey for the next 60 to 90 minutes, by all means do. All we ask if you're using the chat is that you do remember the golden rule. Rule 1 of BOTW, DBAD. Don't be a dick. Be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings, and we will have a jolly good time. We need to have a quick squiz because it was 1-1 in Sheffield in the second leg of the cup final, but it is now 2-1 on the night to the Leeds Knights. Owen Sobchuk's early goal had been cancelled out by Kyle Watson, but a goal for Finn Braden has Leeds 2-1 up on the night at Ice Sheffield. It's still 4-3 on aggregate to the Steel Dogs as things stand. So yes, a terrifying moment for all concerned in Sheffield right now. We'll obviously be keeping tabs on that across the course of the evening. A second point of the night as well for Sobchuk, having scored the first goal. He has assisted Braden on Leeds' second. I've not actually double checked the game sheet here. Who's the refs tonight for this? Chris Wells and Stephen Matthews. So a couple of elite league refs into do the final, but also guys who will occasionally pop their heads into the national division. And certainly Steve Matthews, all of us in the national attached to the national division know all about him on that front as well. Gospel in one end, Brady Parker in the other. Not unreasonable at all on that front. A full fourth line as well of Kale, Matthewman and Nags for the Steel Dogs in that one. Looking good there. The other thing I'll mention, of course, if you didn't check it out last night to talk about sort of 15 years of BOTW, did do a live stream with Nicky Watt and producer Graham over at 4,000 and counting. We spent 2 hours just talking a load of nonsense basically, but it was a lot of fun just talking our way through my journey through bits and pieces. Hockey content creation, turning things into turning what we, putting a lot of miles into our cars and our brains, and sort of turning it into a point where between sort of 4,000 and counting, and my commentary bits and pieces, that we're now not earning mega bucks or anything like that out of British Hockey, but we are able to kind of make something out of our side hustles in that sort of sense. But I think the big thing I would say from my conversation is just kind of the thing I want to reiterate is that if you find something you love, push on. Just keep pushing on with it and do it and enjoy it. Even on, there'll be moments as well where it is a grind and it is really, really tough. Like I had a period where I had writer's block for, I think it must have been about 4-5 weeks, where I just couldn't get the words out of my brain, and it was really, really hard to write about anything. And I remember just really, really clearly, just really struggling to deal with that point, because the thing I was the guy who wrote about stuff, and I couldn't find a way to write, so it was very, very hard to do that. But like invest in your passions and you'll never be poor. And invest doesn't mean money. It will mean money. You'll have to spend money to do the things you love, because that's the world we live in. But it's about time, and it's about dedication, and it's about energy, and it's finding the things that you enjoy, and just really, really hammering yourself to it, and just being proud of the work that you do. And when you realize it's not as good as it could have been, trying to make it better and trying to make it different the next time, because you will go out and you will try and you will fail, because nobody is good at anything straight away. It's a lesson that my son is learning the hard way at 8 years old, that you're not instantly good at everything, and that is hard sometimes for a little person's brain to wrap itself all the way around. But like, there are pieces where I look back at now that I wrote at the beginning of BOTW that would never pass muster now. But that's also a good thing, because I can see the progression I've made, in the same way that anything that you do when you start at it, no one should be good at anything first time. That's always a really tough thing to be able to do. And some people have that natural aptitude for such things, but I'm one of those people. I have to work hard in that kind of sense. But yeah, go check that out over on the 4,000 Accounting Facebook page with me and Nikki. Like I say, it is long. It is about 2 hours. So do feel free to kind of skip forwards and backwards and do it in a couple of parts. But it was a really good chat. And obviously as well, for people not aware, Nikki and I have a history that will always be slightly intertwined, because when Nikki got banned, and when he got banned the second time as well, him and I spoke, and we have spoken at times over the years about those bits and pieces. And of course, Nikki was able to turn, to do some different things within the sport as a result of those, as a result of what's gone on. And yeah, I mean, Nikki, like me, we are not naturally talented people. We have to work hard to do these bits and pieces. We'll also say shout out to Nikki as well, because he's finally, and he's been talking about this since actually he got banned. He's finally getting his hip operation next Monday, so that'll be really interesting to see how he comes out the other side of this. Because if his hip is fixed, will we see Nicky Watt back on the ice before too long? I wonder what would happen. And I'm not saying he'll go back into the national division, but maybe, just maybe, there's a Division 2 side somewhere that picks up Nicky and gives him a run out just to see how it goes. I'm sure somebody will be brave enough to do that. Oh, swig of water there. But yeah, questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, get those bits and pieces in as we look through stuff across British hockey. There is, I was going to say, we've had almost a quiet week. I've said that, and something will blow up now. And of course, we've got the cup final happening at the moment between Leeds and Sheffield. But one of the things I'm really kind of sort of pleased about is that we have had quite a mad couple of weeks. We had Fife and everything that was going on there. We had Glasgow buying Dundee. We had all the debacle with the cup final, with the Elite League Challenge Cup final, and Coventry now having to play a home game in Nottingham. That's definitely not going to be a home game for Coventry. And then, if you haven't seen the results from the Elite League, boy, are you in for a surprise, given what happened during the week. But but certainly, I don't think it's a bad thing right now that we're just this week. A few trophies have been decided, lots of good stuff to talk about rather than some of the madness that's gone on. So a few wonky bits, don't worry. We'll touch on what happened to Guildford momentarily when we get into the Elite League results, and we'll touch on all of the other sort of strange goings on across all of the divisions. But sometimes as well, I'm just really conscious, particularly at this part of the season where emotions are starting to get really high. Everybody's getting really nervous. The end of the season is very much approaching us, and we are at that point where everything is sort of hypercharged and hypertense, and before too long that will be at Sheffield for the Steel City Showdown, we'll be in Coventry for the National Division weekend, we'll be in Nottingham for the Elite League weekend, we'll be in Sheffield again for the WNHL weekend, and we'll be in Aberdeen for the Scottish Cup and all those bits and pieces. Plenty going on, so it's nice just to have a regular weekend of just usual hockey silliness without worrying too much about anything else that's going on around it, is what I would say on that front. First period has ended at Ice Sheffield. Thank you, Jamie. Steel Dogs 1, Knights 2 on the night, but the Steel Dogs still with that 4-3 aggregate lead. And of course, next Wednesday night, the Elite League Challenge Cup final between the Nottingham Panthers and the Coventry Blaze, which of course we will do similar to what we're doing here. We will keep tabs on that one. Very interesting chat on BBC Radio Nottingham with Danny Stewart. If you haven't had listened to that one, go check that out. Very, very sort of interesting, and sort of the fact that it's not any it's not the Panthers' fault. Certainly not Danny Stewart and the roster's fault for the sort of situation it's in, and Danny Stewart sort of alluding to the fact that it's not a game they earned by right, but they will make the best of the situation they are given. We of course will see what happens next Wednesday evening as the first trophy in the Elite League will be decided at the Motor Point. And as it stands, the other trophies is what we should probably get into talking about now as we head and look at the Elite League fixtures from this past weekend. I also realise what I've not done is I've got all of my graphics in tiny form, which was not my smartest move, because I now need to get them in a form I can actually read them. Well done, Anthony, smartest man in the world. Let's get this working, and I'm going to move that so I can see what I'm doing, because it's now covering all of that. There we go. There we go. That's working a bit better now. There we go. So back to Friday evening. 2 games on Friday night in the Elite League. And the Glasgow Clan must absolutely curse Paul Dixon and the Guildford Flames, because every time they seem to play them, they just can't find a way over the hump. Charlie Curtie gets his second overtime winner in Glasgow of this season. For the Flames to take the extra point here. Glasgow doubling up the Flames on shots. 43 shots on the night. 41 saves from Justin Fazio in this one. Charlie Curtie scoring the OT winner and the 1,400th goal of the Flames Elite League tenure. At the Storm Shelter, Manchester, with a pretty comfortable win, they beat Dundee on Friday night by 5-1. And then, well, everything went wonky for Guildford. The bus broke down, and and travel bits and pieces. It took them. They finished up the game around the sort of 10:30 mark on Friday night in Glasgow. Guildford did not go back to the Guildford Spectrum until 9:30 on Saturday morning, and then took on Fife. Which is what was just a very bizarre game. It was very, very odd. It didn't make a lot of sense. Definitely not one that was going to win any beauty contests in terms of the quality of hockey that was played. But Fife out of the playoff race, they cannot qualify. But I said on the broadcast, they are going to want to play spoiler everywhere they go, and they certainly spoiled things on Saturday night. A 4-3 win. Justin Ducharme with the game-winning goal in that one. Dundee then managed to get a measure of revenge at home at the DIA against Manchester, going all the way to the shootout. But they do indeed manage to solve. Everyone winning it in the shootout, and Dundee also get some points for pride. Both the Stars and the Flyers cannot make the postseason. Glasgow went to OT again, but unfortunately could not get past their former relatives in the Nottingham Panthers. A 5-4 OT win as Nottingham looked to try and keep any sort of pace at all with the teams above them heading for the title. Coventry and Sheffield met at the Utilita, and again another big shootout. Back and forth on this one, but one that the Steelers end up winning 4-3 the final at the House of Steel. And then it was the double header in Belfast, and a huge result for the Cardiff Devils in a way defensively slightly lax display from the Giants, and Cardiff with off the back of a Riley Brand hat trick beat the Giants in Belfast on Saturday evening to cause a bit of a headache. But then the next night, Belfast turn it around again. Not an ideal weekend for the Giants, conceding 9 goals on home ice against title chasing opposition, but they do get 2 points out of it. 5-4 the final on Sunday, and the Giants are still the ones staring down the barrel of the Elite League trophy. Fife, well, they seem to blow out all of their energy on Saturday evening in Guildford, and they got absolutely humped at home by the Sheffield Steelers. 7-1 the final there. And in a preview of the cup final, Coventry didn't go well. The Nottingham Panthers scored 2 short-handed goals in 24 seconds, and that kind of blew the game wide open, and the Panthers comfortably walk out of the Sky Dome with a 6-1 victory. And certainly will put a few things in the minds of a few people on both sides ahead of the Challenge Cup final a week tonight. So the table as it stands, we have our 8 playoff competitors in the Elite League. It is already decided. Dundee and Fife will be on the outside looking in. The postseason calls for them by the end of the second weekend of the end of the first weekend of April. Everybody is locked in at the moment, though. As you can see, positioning very much not done at the moment. Belfast need 11 points from the last 10 games to secure the Elite League title. Sheffield and Nottingham both on 64 points have played a game more. Cardiff on 61 points have played a game more. It is very much ball in the court of the Belfast Giants, but they still have to do the business. The only team, as you can see as well, to have conceded less than 100 goals across the Elite League regular season. Manchester in 5th, Guildford 6th, Glasgow 7th, Coventry 8th, with both Guildford 3 points ahead of both Glasgow and Coventry, having played a game more. So then have a look at the fixtures. Friday night, and quite a busy Friday night, and quite a quiet Saturday, all things considered, in the Elite League. But a busy Friday around the Elite League. Nottingham take on Fife at the Motorpoint. Dundee and Guildford will meet twice this weekend. They start on Friday at the DIA. Glasgow take on Cardiff. Manchester take on Coventry at the Storm Shelter to round out Friday night. And as we said, just the 2 games on Saturday. But we do have a very big one in there. With all due respect to Coventry and Glasgow, people will have all eyes on the House of Steel on Saturday night. Sheffield versus Belfast is your main event of Saturday evening. And then into Sunday, as you'll see, they will do battle twice at the House of Steel in 24 hours. Cardiff will also take on Nottingham in a huge game. If the Panthers win and the Steelers win, will do massive amounts for the title race. Fife take on Manchester, and as we said, the second part of Guildford's and Dundee's double header across the weekend. And where you will find me on Sunday, Flames TV, 6 p.m. face-off for this one at the Guildford Spectrum. We will be live for coverage of the Guildford Flames and the Dundee Stars from about the 5:55 mark. Do join us for that one as Guildford take on their 3rd Scottish team in about 8 days. And so, as the National Division Cup final rages around us, we will have a look at the National Division itself and go back to Friday. A busy weekend for the Basingstoke Bisons. The first of 3 games, and they were 4 and 5-0 down in short order, and couldn't find a way past the Solway Sharks in what was a huge game for the Herd. Couldn't do the business at home on that one. And there's a slight preview of this evening. Leeds and Sheffield battled at the Castle. The Knights got the better though in this occasion. 5-4 the winners on Friday night. And with the league title already wrapped up, Swindon were back home. They do lose at home to the Leeds Knights by 5-4, but they do pick up their first ever National Division trophy, their first league title since the 2018-2019 NIHL South 1 title, the last league before the formation of the National Division and before COVID ruined everything. Hull, well, after their good run, they tripped up at home against Peterborough. Certainly a few people throwing knuckles in that one. Bobby Chamberlain and Joe Gretton because fine. Basingstoke, well, they needed a win and they couldn't get a win. They lose at home by 5-3. Their second defeat at home in the space of 24 hours as they lose to Romford. A superb goal in this one from Adam Lasham if you haven't checked out the highlights. Bristol and Milton Keynes decided to forget how to defend, as did Solway and Telford, because they both ended up with 8-5 scorelines, and in both instances the away team won, because of course altogether, if you know the words, why defend when you cannot defend is the short version on that one. And then into Sunday, and kind of the result that we knew was coming and had been coming for a couple of weeks, because the form post-Christmas hasn't quite been there. The Bison needed stuff out of this weekend, and they got a point out of Romford. But it was not enough. An overtime winner for the Raiders at the Sapphire, and the maths are the maths are there, and the maths are concrete. The Basingstoke Bison will miss the playoffs in their first season of return after 2 years away. However, we did say this year was a bit of a free mulligan, and I did say in one of the Basingstoke Bison fan groups during the week, 25-26 does the ship float, and then 26-27 you worry about moving out to sea. The other team joining the Bison on the golf course, the Bristol Pitbulls. Their 4-2 loss to Milton Keynes as well as Romford winning did mean that the Pitbulls will once again miss the postseason. It will probably be the Bison and the Pitbulls battling it out for the wooden spoon. Another good win for Milton Keynes post their coaching change. And of course we know now that Tim Wallace has officially left the club, which was what we'd all guessed was happening anyhow and didn't really make much sense. But either way, under Lewis Christie, the Lightning have started picking up at just the right time, and it's still their playoff title to defend until it's not theirs to defend. Swindon, having picked up the league title and spent most of Saturday night in the Harvey, started Tyler Perry on Sunday, and Peterborough started Will Bray on Sunday up in Phantoms country, and a first win in the National Division for Will Bray as the Phantoms beat the Wildcats by 5-3. Though with all due respect, if the Wildcats were anywhere near sober for that game, I don't know what to tell you. Hull got themselves back to winning ways after Telford's massive win on Saturday night. A bump back down to earth for the Tigers as the Seahawks get back on the horse and win by 4-3 in Shropshire. And there you see the National Division table. The X by Bristol and Basingstoke. They cannot qualify for the postseason. And with all due respect to Solway, they need a minor miracle with 4 games left. They trail by 6 points. They need to win out to have any chance of making the postseason and not finishing 9th again for the 3rd season in a row since they stepped up from Division 1 North to join the National. Romford, well, they know that the results going their way, and of course doing their own business this weekend, will secure their place in the postseason. It will of course put them in a group with Swindon, but then again, Romford do have a pretty good postseason record against the Wildcats, so we will see what will happen on that front. Our National Division graphics, of course, are made by the fantastic Max Van Mullen, the Romford Raiders and the Romford Buccaneers, and of course heading off to Romania with GB under-18s before too long into the bargain. But after tonight's madness, the Sheffield Steel Dogs will be back in action. Another Yorkshire battle. They will take on the Hull Seahawks at Ice Sheffield this Friday night. Into Saturday, and well, Bristol and Basingstoke playing for pride, but they will have some tough tasks to do it. All things considered, Bristol at home on Saturday night. They take on Telford. Basingstoke head away to Milton Keynes. Elsewhere, Leeds take on Romford. Solway must win against Sheffield to have any chance. Swindon, the champions, having lost in Peterborough, will welcome the Phantoms to the Link Centre on Saturday night. Into Sunday then, and well, if Swindon fancy having a nap, I'm sure Basingstoke will thank them for it. But it will be the other Nell Classico on Sunday in Basingstoke. Bison versus Wildcats. Hull will welcome Bristol to the Wells Men's Versatile Arena. The Ashes happens again in Peterborough as they take on MK. Romford versus Solway. And if results go Solway's way on Saturday evening, this game at the Sapphire will be absolutely huge come Sunday evening. Will be the one to keep an eye on, that's for sure. Telford take on Leeds. We will quickly pause there for a minute before we get crack on and talk about anything else. Ooh, he says nearly knocking his water bottle over. First proper second-tier league title for the Wildcats since 2001. Yes, they do keep talking about this. I would say this. It's their first title of a national division. With all due respect, the NIHL Division 1 was a proper second tier, because there's no case of being a proper second tier or not. it was the second tier of British hockey at the time. There wasn't anything between that and the Elite League. Oh, second is underway in Sheffield. Jamie, you are correct. The pink will be back for MK and the Purse again. Hopefully the Lightning will paint commentary pink again. We will see. It'll be very interesting. Can you imagine, given the way that both teams have played, if we ended up with a Milton Keynes Hull Seahawks playoff final at Coventry? That would be, firstly, you'd probably either end up 1-0 or 7-6. Which would be hilarious. However, like I say, there's a lot of hockey to be played. Still, but a lot of exciting stuff kind of going on. Lots of really, really interesting threads. Can Swindon make it back to Coventry? Can Swindon actually win at Coventry if they make it? Sheffield and Leeds, of course. One of these two teams is going to come into the playoffs as the winner of the NIHL National Division Cup. What will they be able to achieve, or will they have sort of expanded all their emotional energy, getting one trophy that mean that they can't pick up the second? Peterborough have got Ferrara and Lackinen scoring points out of their eyeballs, but have fallen away in both trophies. Will they be able to do the business again at Coventry like we know Peterborough can, albeit with Ashley Tate at the helm instead of Slava Kulikov? Will Romford potentially finish 8th and run the table? Do Solway sneak over the line and make it back to Coventry, a place where they won 2 Division 1 national titles? There's lots of good stuff happening in this one. Plus MK and Hull fans don't like each other. With all due respect, Jamie, everyone's going to be cheering for Hull because that's just the way it is. So lots of fun to be had in that one. Tons and tons of threads with the Elite League, of course, because of the shortened playoff format. It will be a bit of a different one, but there is a lot of interesting stuff to sort of look at there, mostly because we're potentially staring down the barrel of a Cardiff Manchester 4 versus 5, which I think is really, really good for Manchester. Now, I have to confess, I am less sold on Manchester than a lot of other people, and it's because I will always bias what I've seen with my own eyes over what I see elsewhere. And like the results obviously show the fact that Manchester have been less injured and more consistent than Guildford, then Coventry, and then Glasgow. That's why they're in 5th. But certainly, I think Manchester versus Cardiff. I think gives Manchester a huge chance of making the Final Four. Nottingham versus Guildford gives Guildford potentially a massive chance of making the Final Four. I'm not certain that Coventry are quite done. Glasgow have rebounded a bit under Mike Saran. Tons and tons of bits and pieces. You think and you feel that at least one of the most of the top 4 will make it, but I'm not certain that all of the top 4 make it to Nottingham in the Elite League playoffs. That's for sure. Thoughts, Anthony, on slow ticket sales for Coventry? Are Planet Ice being too greedy? I think the increase in price has probably caused a few people an issue, especially given the fact that life is quite expensive now. But also, I think as well there will be 2 elements that will also come into this. One, has my team made it? Because some people cannot justify going if their team doesn't make it. Now, I would say if you can afford it and you want to be, and you are worried about, will it still be fun if my team's not there? 100% it will always be a good laugh if it's not there. But there will also be those people who, there'll be the thing that they'll think about it and they'll fear, it will be fear of missing out. And it'll be that sort of element for a lot of people. I do think the price increase has put some people off, and I think there'll be. But like I said, I do think that as we get closer and closer to the event, I do think we will see a bit of an uptick in bits and pieces. Also, remember that we do have a Division 1 national final from 2 teams, and one team in particular making it for the first time. We will talk about, of course, in the form of Blackburn, who've never been in this position before. We will potentially see a big travelling contingent come from Lancashire for that one. And then, of course, like I say, it will depend on, we will always get that bounce from the teams that make it. And if you end up with Milton Keynes, Hull, Swindon, and Leeds, no offence to Sheffield, but the Steel Dogs don't bring a lot of people to Coventry. Leeds, who travel well, Swindon, who travel well, MK, who travel well, and Hull, who generally who travel okay, but will definitely turn up in spades for a playoff final. So there's a bunch of things on this. I think the price increase has been too steep too quick, much like a lot of people are saying about the season tickets in Cardiff. But certainly I think that there was we will see how it kind of turns out when we get to that point. It does look like it won't be a sellout for the first time, and I think they will have to kind of adjust their thinking and adjust their pricing as it comes to it as a result, because people will vote with their wallets and will vote with their feet and not turn up. The one thing I haven't double checked: does anybody know if the Coventry Marathon is happening that day? Because that was the one we all fell foul of in 2024, where it was impossible to get parking in one of the car parks. That didn't help at all. But yeah, for me, I still think there is I still think that the National Division weekend does offer you games where everybody where every game means something in the same way the Steel City Showdown does as well. That's of course going to be a really big issue for Steel City, is everybody remembering last year and Slough versus Streatham finishing at like nearly midnight, and the stream turning off because the settings were set for it to sort of turn off at a certain time, kind of thing. So we will. There's a bunch of different issues here for the organisers. Really fascinated to see what's happening, and of course, I love me a Coventry weekend, so it'll be fantastic to see what's happening as a result of that. I'm very very quickly going to hit the buttons and refresh. On that, no extra goals at the moment. I do love the thing on the National Division website. No events in this period. Well, certainly they're doing something, not just standing still. Let's get a bit more honesty into the bargain. Just clicking the buttons and just making sure we are not missing out any other news as we go. Just like I say, it's always one of those things. Just waiting for something to happen when we're not paying attention, because that's always the nature of these things. Nothing else at the moment, it looks like, because of course the only game in town is Sheffield and Leeds tonight. Really looking forward to Blackburn versus Slough. Should be a great game. Really interested to see Blackburn and how they play. I am fascinated to see what Blackburn do. They are a very, very physical team, but they do have a lot of really good scoring. Coventry, oh, pity's sake. Coventry Marathon is indeed that Sunday. That's me parking in the Sky Dome then, because they'll shut the blooming NCP. Oh, that is annoying. C'est la vie. I'll check the thing. Hopefully they'll change the route this time. But yes, tried to go into the NCP 2 years ago, and it was closed because of the marathon route, and it made no sense. But it is what it is. We will figure that one out as we go. But yeah, Blackburn. Harrison Walker has had a really, really good year, but he's had a really good defence in front of him as well. Obviously bolstered with a lot of National Division sort of guys who've been in the National for quite some time, but also as well some good NIHL 1 guys who have sort of worked their way through too. But it was a roster that was built to win the title, and it was a roster built to try and smash its way through. Billingham, of course, have not had a good year with consistency wise. Blackburn were far and away better than everybody else in the league, but of course, as we saw, they fell foul in the cup. There will be no Grand Slam for the Hawks, with the North One Cup having found its way to Queensferry and the folk from the Deeside Dragons. Now, can Blackburn finish the job? I think will be the interesting thing in the North, because Slough have muddled their way through. They've taken a couple of knocks on the chin. Of course, no Grand Slam for Slough either. They didn't win the Challenge Cup. That went to Streatham, but they have won the South One Cup. And as we will see momentarily, the league has fallen back into their hands. Fascinating to see what will be Andy McKinney versus Neil Lydiard. That will be hilarious as well. But yes, that is annoying that the Coventry Marathon is indeed the same Sunday as the National Division playoff final. It's almost like they could have changed the date. Coventry Marathon 2026. Yeah, that's a pain in the bum. 9 starts at 9 a.m. because of course it does. Let's have a quick look at this whilst we're all talking about it. No, we don't want that. Coventry Marathon 2026 route. That's what we want. If we put that. Starting on Gosford Street and finishing at the iconic Coventry Cathedral. That's all well and good. But what we all want to know is the NCP going to be open? let's have a look at the. Try and have a look at the route and see what they do, because hopefully what they will do is obviously they'll need to close some roads for it, but they will but hopefully they will do the sensible thing and not close all of the roads to the point that people can't do anything with it, because it is an absolute pain in the backside. Nothing that I can see in the immediacy. We will check that at another stage. Because, like I say, I prefer parking the NCP. I prefer to just be a little bit away from the Skydome. I like that little walk at the end of it, or back to the car to have a decompress before I have to drive home. Because what I generally do on a Coventry weekend is I will come up on the Friday night. I stay at a friend's house, but on the Sunday, I'll finish the games and then I drive home. I just drive straight back to Southampton. I've taken off the Friday, I've taken off the Monday, so we should have a whale of a time, and that should be a good one. Right, what we're going to find a way of getting from the station to the rink. Hopefully, it's not going to be on the route of the marathon, but I think they'll certainly. I doubt it will be that way. What they would probably want to do is, if they're doing it from the cathedral, by the looks of it, it will go away from the centre of town and go out that way. But hope we'll have to wait and see, Jamie, on that one. That's some research for us to do. We can all chat about that one as we head towards April and playoffs. What we need to do is we will have a quick look, as we like to do, at the Scottish National League, because goals, and goals north of the border as it stands. And our friends at Kilmarnock still unable to get themselves a win or a point, though, as we've seen, they're definitely not the worst team. That team in Romania we spoke about last week that haven't won for 7 years, and the news out of junior hockey in Canada, the GOHL, the Greater Ontario Hockey League, 2 levels below the OHL, and the Sarnia Legionnaires, who have gone 0-50 to finish their season. Not a single point, not an overtime win, not even anything, not a single point in 50 regular season games as their campaign came to an end last weekend. But her four times the pain for Kilmarnock, losing 16-4 at the Galleon against the Aberdeen Lynx. North Ayr, well, they got a kicking of their own. They got only 3 times as bad for them, losing 13-4 at home against the Dundee Rockets. And then, well, there is Edinburgh getting themselves in a big and key position, a 5-1 win over the Kirkcaldy Kestrels, meaning that Edinburgh's game this weekend, they are playing at Murrayfield against the Paisley Pirates. It is a home game for the Pirates, being played at Murrayfield because of ice time availability at Braehead. But Edinburgh need a point. Edinburgh need 1 point to bring the Scottish National League title back to Murrayfield, and they will win an away game in their own rink to potentially wrap up the title, because British hockey, and nothing is ever straightforward in that sense. Sunday, just the two games there, and you may well have seen the video doing the rounds. Paul Key and Shevlin getting rabbit punched into the shadow realm by Richie Bentham. But that was the only thing Solway won on the night up at Dumfries. They lose 7-2 at home to the Kirkcaldy Kestrels. Elsewhere, up at Aberdeen, it was the second leg of the other semi-final of the Scottish Cup. 4 apiece heading into the second leg of this one for that 4-4 tie at Hillheads a couple of weeks ago. But Whitley do the business on the road, one of their longest away trips of the season, and it sees the English side into the Scottish Cup final at the first time of asking for Tony Hand and his team. Congratulations to them. We'll talk about the Cup momentarily as we have a look at the league, but there it is. There is the long and the short of it. The Edinburgh Capitals on 53 points from 29 games need a point to take themselves over the line and secure the Scottish National League title in what would be an away game at their own rink. Whitley are 7 points back, having played a game more. Eventually that title is going to find its way to Edinburgh, bar an absolute collapse of collapses. As you can see there, Edinburgh as well, 29 games played, only 51 goals conceded, a plus 136 goal difference for them. At the bottom, our friends from Kilmarnock. Crazy to think that they 2 seasons ago, Kilmarnock finished third in the SNL, and last season only won one game, which was on the road. So they haven't won at home since the 23-24 campaign. At the moment, still bad reading for them. 29 up, 29 down. 60 goals scored in 29 games and 356 conceded for a goal difference of minus 296. Which Kilmarnock are putting out a team to try and get the best out of them, and they are celebrating everybody's first SNL goal. And fair play to the Thunder for that. Of course, we know that the Solway and North Ayr locked in for the playoffs in the SNL. At the moment, it very much looks like it will be Edinburgh versus North Ayr and Whitley versus Solway in a bit of an interesting former clash of former North One sides. In the Cup, we know the final, and it will be the Whitley Warriors and the Edinburgh Capitals. We go proper old school 80s retro classic in the Scottish Cup final. The Capitals, of course, squeak their way by the Dundee Rockets to get into the final. Whitley's big win up at Aberdeen during the weekend means that they have made it there as well. Should be a really, really exciting game. If there's a game that you couldn't decide, it would need a coin toss to get yourself past, that would probably be the one that you'd want to think of for sure. Should be a really, really enthralling game. Of course, the playoffs still to come in the SNL, but the Capitals look like the league title will be heading to Murrayfield. Can they add the Scottish Cup and look for a historic Scottish Grand Slam into the bargain? We will find out over the coming weeks. What's Luca put here? The starting goalie for the team in Canada, which owned 50, ended the season with a save percentage of 88% and more than 5 goals against. That's pretty good going. It is pretty crazy. Yeah, the Sarnia Legionnaires, in a league that goes from sort of 16 to 20-year-olds, basically were a team of 16-year-olds and had like no veteran presence. They had ownership issues as well, which I saw was announced by the league today have been rectified. So they should be able to be on a bit more of a stable footing for 26, 27. But yeah, those kids deserve a medal for rocking up every week and just and putting it all on the line. So fair play to the folk in Sarnia, and of course Sarnia. Great junior hockey pedigree, of course, the Sting of the Ontario Hockey League, well known. If you've ever seen the Bracknell Bees jersey of old, you'll know what the logo was. But yeah, obviously junior hockey at all of these different levels across Canada is huge stuff. But yeah, to be on the end of 50 defeats on the spin is pretty terrifying going. And like I say, we looked at that team last week from Romania who haven't won since before COVID, which is just But that's the joy of hockey. There's you keep going and you keep pushing, and eventually your time should come. So we will see what happens for some of those Sarnia Legionnaires players when they come back for 26-27 and what will be their second season of hockey at that level. Either way, as Luca in the chat, we will have a look at the goings on from around the rest of the NIHL into One North as we usually go, and we had a rarity of all rarities, a Friday night game, not a game played at sort of 10 o'clock at night, because that was a fun one from North 2 the other year, wasn't it? But the Leeds Knights had 3 in 3, and they started on the road in Telford, knowing that they need a bit of a miracle to try and make the playoffs. It didn't start well on Friday evening. It was 1-1 after 5 minutes before Telford turned up and put the game well and truly to bed. A 6-2 win for Jason Silverthorne's side over the Leeds Knights too. And of course, who else was scoring the goals? Vladimir Luka had a 3-point night. He had 2 goals, 2 as well for Tyler Somerton. The other goals coming from Kyle Ferguson and Tom Byrne. The Knights' goal coming from Tom Palmer and Sean Reynolds. I don't believe that's the same Sean Reynolds who plays for Guildford on who's magically magicked himself up north. But as you can see there, pretty busy night for Daniel Norton before Harrison McCourt got in for the last 5 minutes of action there. A quiet night for Zach Brown, the other end. Telford were back in action the following night in the derby against Solihull, and the Barons came into Telford and took the points away. A 7-4 victory for the Barons, who are starting to pick up a little bit of momentum and confidence heading into the postseason. Of course, Matt Martin, who suspended for the return of this one. A hat-trick again for Vladimir Luka, and the other goal coming from Jason Silverthorne. Luka 3+1, Silverthorne 1+3, because why not? I suppose into that one. The goals for the Barons in this one: a hat trick for Phil Mulcahy, 2 for Nicholas Otterson, and 2 for Alex White, as the Barons take the points back to Hobbsmoat Road. And then, well, sorry, Luca, we need to talk about it. I know you'll want us to skip past it, but we do need to talk about it. And there were some very kind words for you on the Billingham Stars podcast this week, but the Stars, still on this ridiculous road swing that won't see them back at home for another couple of weeks, do get the 4-3 win over the Widnes Wild. And the first ever senior hat-trick for Ben Greenhalgh has been bouncing between forward and D during his time between the Stars and the Buccaneers, but ultimately is he and Darren Stattersfield who do the damage and get the points for the Stars and try and get them some momentum heading into the playoffs. Wild goals coming from Luke Alston, Jordan Jolly and Alex Parry scoring inside the last 90 seconds to make things interesting, but no way back for the Wild in this one. And Luca, well, like we say, he faced 48 shots and made 44 saves. So, like we said, an above average performance given the numbers. Leeds, well, they didn't have a good Friday night away. They didn't have a good Saturday at home either. A pretty convincing 4-0 victory for the Hull Jets over at the Castle. A hat-trick from Mark Florence and a goal from Ethan Dainties, who's been on a pretty good run relatively recently. A 36-shot shutout for Dan Crowe, which will do his confidence no end of good heading into the playoffs. Both Ollie Booth and Orson Groot getting some action across this one for the night. Though for the Jets, they had a good Saturday. They had a bad Sunday as the Deeside Dragons came to town. Another 4 goals on the night for Jake Witkowski, who is now up to 62, of course, trying to chase down Ian Brown's record from last season. You have to think the last couple of games are just going to be Colin Cromie and everybody setting him up for love nor money. The other Deeside goal in this one coming from Noah Percival from Jake Witkowski. Witkowski finishing this game 62 goals and 62 assists. Because symmetry is a beautiful thing. Hull's goals in this one coming from Aidan Dancer and Scott Morris. And then 2 old friends. These two absolutely love each other, do the Nottingham Lions and the Blackburn Hawks. But the league champs were in town, and it was another solid performance from the Hawks as they continue their dominance and try and keep up their momentum as they head towards the postseason. A 5-1 win for Dominic Osman's side. Josh Chan with the lone goal for the hosts. 2 goals for Adam Barnes, 2 for James Riddick, and the other goal coming from Dylan Hullaby for the Hawks as they continue the Champions Tour. And then, well, the bad weekend to end all bad weekends. Leeds, 3 games in 3 nights. They scored 2 goals. They were shut out twice and have no points to show for it. They lose by 4 goals to 0 at Hobbsmoat Road and lose to the Solihull Barons, who have a very productive weekend themselves. 4 different goal scorers as well for the Barons: Henry Adams, Tyler Nixon, Jacob Race, and Jake Riley, all on the board for the Barons. In this one, a 28-shot shutout for Graham Laverick on the evening. Heading into this coming weekend then, 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday in North 1. Saturday night, Hull versus Widnes at the world's most versatile arena. Luca gets some chip spice. Telford versus Deeside is 6 p.m. in a repeat of the Cup final. And then 6:40 at Ice Sheffield, the Scimitars take on the Solihull Barons. You have to think that Solihull should get a win there as they look to improve their playoff seeding. Sunday, Hobbsmoat Road, Solihull versus Billingham, which of course around this time last year when the Billingham went to Hobbsmoat Road and won the league title. A very different story this season for the Stars. Can they get something going in the Midlands? 7 p.m. at the Castle for Leeds Knights 2 versus Telford 2. Nottingham versus Sheffield is 7:20 on Sunday. So we have a quick look at the North 2 table as it stands there. The Hawks, of course, confirmed as the champions. The only thing left to decide is the fact that the Knights can still mathematically catch the Lions, but losing all 3 games this past weekend has put them in a really bad spot. They need to win out, and they need Nottingham to lose to make the postseason in North 1. Everybody else is already locked in. As it stands, Blackburn would play Nottingham, Deeside would play Widnes, Solihull would play Hull, and then you would get Telford versus Billingham in the 4 versus 5, which would be a heck of a playoff tie. I think we can all agree. I have just seen a message pop up on my screen from Mr. Joe Scutts, Mr. NIHL Stats himself, a man who makes all these lovely box scores that we aren't talking about. Marathon route goes by the main round. Around the town centre, and it's the first mile of the race. So hopefully that means we'll all get all of our parking spots, and we'll all be able to. And Jamie will be able to make the station without it being an issue. That's what we like to see. We've obviously talked about Max and the fun times that he has, because of course he makes our graphics. Saturday down on the south coast, however, the Buccaneers had an absolute nightmare, and Paul Max was out of this one early. 5-0 Solent after 20 minutes, and an 8-1 final score for Alex Murray's side over the Buccaneers. Uriah Husker with the lone goal for the visitors. In this one, goals for the Devils, 2 from Riley Panther. The other goals coming from Kane Russell, who's wearing 7 because okay. Liam Coleman, Cam Buckle, Alex Murray, Ollie Cackett, and Josh Martin. As we can see there, Max faced the first period 5 goals on 27 shots before letting Tom Adams have a go for the final 40 minutes. A 40 save night for Aaron Taylor at the other end. And then, well, Slough came into the weekend knowing that if everything went their way, the title would be theirs again, and they certainly got what they wanted on Saturday evening, a 9-3 demolition at the hangar of the Chelmsford Chieftains in a game that you wonder whether it would, given how physical the Chelmsford could be, whether it would get particularly physical. But the answer was no. On the whole, a few moments, but nothing really to write home about. I'm having a moment there. As Neil Lydiard edged ever closer to his 47th birthday. But the big news, of course, the hat-trick for Ollie Hemmings-Marr, a 4-point evening for him, and the other goals coming from Juha Lindgren, Ben Lee Newman, Christian Moore, Lewis English, and Marcus Mitchell. Marcus Mitchell getting a goal. That's how you know Slough are playing well, and even where good old Marcus gets on the scoreboard, and Dylan Halicka. The Chelmsford Chieftains goals, 2 for Cam Bartlett, the other coming for Regan O'Neill. Saturday evening, Streatham needed to win, and you'd have expected them to win against the Cardiff Fire, and they did down in South Wales. 3-1 victory for the Red Hawks in this one. Ethan Lane, Luke Brittle, and Ryan Watt with the goals for Ben Painter's side. Will Thurber with the lone goal for the Fire in this one. Gemma Davis making 63 saves on 66 shots. Dominic Ray only facing 16. And then it all came down to this. Back once again in early March on the high road, when we look back in Banners on the Wall history 2 years ago to the second leg of the South One Cup final, where Streatham won a game 1-0 with an empty net goal from Tomasz Skokan. And I said at the time it felt like this was Slough's Rocky 1 moment, and you have to go through Rocky 1 to get to Rocky 2. They won the league last year, and this time Slough don't just win the league, they win the league on the high road. Congratulations to Lucas Smittle and all of the team at Slough for securing another South 1 championship. And as we said, the main event of the last curtain down moment of the Division 1 season will come at the Coventry Sky Dome on Sunday the 19th of April. Blackburn and the defending National Division 1 champions, the Slough Jets, will go head to head on that Sunday afternoon in Coventry. That should be an absolute cracker. Christian Moore, Benny Lee Newman, and 2 goals from Juha Lindgren seal the deal and get the Jets over the line for their second league title in 2 seasons. And also as well into the bargain, a 32-shot shutout from Matt Smittle just to hammer home the point. Elsewhere in the Essex derby, a 4-1 victory for Chelmsford over Romford. Not a great weekend for the Buccaneers in this one after Saturday night's entertainment down in Gosport. Migas Canis with a goal for the Buccaneers. Cam Bartlett, Halvin Barnes-Garner, Ewan Morrison, 20th goal of the year for Sasha Maltsev for the Chieftains, getting the point as Lewis Clifford edges towards the end of his tenure at the Riverside. And the Devils, well, maximum on the weekend for Alex Murray's team. A 3-0 shutout victory down in South Wales over the Cardiff Fire. Josh Martin, Alex Murray and Dan Lackey with the goals for the South Coast team. A 27-shot shutout for Rory Martin Edwards. 2 games on Saturday in South 1. Romford versus Invicta at 5:15 over at the Sapphire. Streatham will head back to South Wales to take on the Cardiff Fire at 6:45. 3 games on the Sunday. Invicta versus Romford. They will about face and head down to Kent. Chelmsford versus Solent at the Riverside. And then on the high road, the Streatham Redhawks take on Swindon Wildcats 2. We head up, and as you can see there, all confirmed thanks to the wonderful Joe Scutts of NHLstats.wordpress.com. The Slough Jets are confirmed as your Division 1 South champions for 25-26. Chelmsford currently in second place. Streatham are in third, 4 points back with a game in hand over the Chieftains. Invicta in fourth, followed by Solent, Swindon, Romford, and of course Cardiff. They're only the 8 teams in South 1 this year. So as it stands, Slough versus Cardiff in the playoffs, Chelmsford versus Romford, Streatham versus Swindon, which could be a very interesting tie. And of course, because it seems to happen every year at the moment, and it's always a fun one to watch, Invicta and Solent are staring down the barrel again of taking each other on in the playoffs, albeit the 16-point gap in the standings may not be to Alex Murray's liking. Have a quick look at North 2, and they've certainly picked up speed over the last couple of weeks of the Altrincham Aces, and they gave the Nottingham Lions 2 a bit of an almighty walloping at the Storm Shelter, an 11-4 victory for the Aces in this one, as they make sure that the Lions 2, of course, they're with their 31 game ban for Tyler Poole, who won't be seeing competitive hockey for quite some time. Are put back into their box for sure, and 10 different goal scorers on 11 goals. 2 goals for Josh Milnes, the other goals coming from Sam Dunford, Kane Morin, Max Sullivan, CJ Ashton, Corey Swift, Elliot Hunt, Ronnie Grimes, Ollie Gotts and Billy King. The goals for the Lions in this one, 2 from Jake Fisher, the other goals coming from Connor Bennett and Charlie Davenport. Both Lions netminders getting into this one. A tough night for James Guest. 7 goals on 22 shots through 37 minutes of work. A better night at the other end for Bailey Hodgkinson. 44 saves for him. We did wonder last weekend, could the Coventry Blaze provide a banana skin as the Sutton Sting marched towards the North 2 title? And the answer from the Sky Dome was no, they could not. 5-2 Sutton, the final score from Saturday night in the Midlands, as the Sting looked with all eyes focused on that North 2 title. Ryan Fraley with 2 goals, the others for the Sting coming from Joe Colton, Cam Glasby and Ryan Apsley. The goals for the Blaze coming from Harrison Sumner and Sam Prosser. Kingston and Deeside with the early face-off at the world's most versatile arena, and a good, comfortable 7-3 victory for the Sharks over the Deeside Dragons 2. Just the one, Kingston coming out with just the one penalty 18 seconds into the second period, because fun times on that one. 2 goals for Mackenzie Barker and 2 for Lewis Rogers in this one. The others coming from Tom Mardle, Declan Kime and Grant Cook. The Deeside Dragons, 2 goals coming from Chris Jones, Daniel Svadievs and Rory Sillery. And then the one game in the Hockey Hound Challenge Cup, and the trophy, well, it makes its way back to Altrincham. A perfect run at the title from the Aces sees them pick up the Hockey Hound Challenge Cup. Congratulations to all of them over in Manchester. A 7-4 victory at the Forum against the Buccaneers. They've had a pretty poor run, all things considered, in this competition, but you beat what's put in front of you, and the Aces have done the business and have won their little piece of silverware in North 2. Josh Milnes with 2 goals, the others coming from Kane Morin, Jake Frost, Max Sullivan, Dylan Harcourt and Ronnie Grimes. The Buccaneers goals in this one, 2 for Matt Pickup, the other goals coming from Ethan McLaughlin and Sam Dowd. And well, it was a bad night for the Coventry Blaze in the Elite League. A better night on Sunday for the Coventry NIHL Blaze up in Bradford. A 5-1 victory for the NHL Blaze. 5-0 up after just past the halfway mark of regulation for Casper. Andrew Kianich took some shine off the scoreline, but the goals in this one for the Blaze come from Ashton Rudkin, Zach Barker, Charles Coney, Jamie Lewis and Ollie Harris. North 2 next weekend, then just 2 games on Saturday. 4:30 PM up at Ice Sheffield for Sutton versus Kingston. Altrincham take on Coventry at the Storm Shelter at 6:15. That's Saturday night's games. Sutton will take on Altrincham at home. A double home weekend for the Sting on Sunday. Elsewhere on Sunday, Deeside versus the Billingham Buccaneers. Bradford versus Kingston at 5:30. But that as well, I didn't realise as well, I hadn't seen note anywhere, but the Sting have locked up North 2 into the bargain. I hadn't seen any social media bits and pieces at all from the Sting, because celebrating, fine. End of the second in Sheffield, still 2-1 to the Knights. Leeds to start the third period on the power play. Big third period incoming, but congratulations to Sutton, and my apologies for not catching that on for not catching that on Sunday in the midst of everything else that was going on that one. But North 2 locked up. The Titans ran them close, and the Titans had a really, really good start to the year, but ultimately Sutton, who ran Telford close year after year after year. Well, the Tigers stepped up into North 1, and we wondered who would fill the void. Would Sutton finally manage to stop being the bridesmaid and get themselves over the line? The answer is they have done, and they will play. They've taken home the North 2 title as well as the cup. The Grand Slam still on for the Sting at the moment. As you see there, Bradford 2 games in hand over the Lions too. But they do need to get some points, otherwise they will fall and they will not make the postseason this time around. If the playoffs started today, Sutton would take on Nottingham, Sheffield versus Kingston, Billingham versus Deeside, Coventry versus Altrincham, which would be a cracking playoff tie, it should be said. And then into South 2, Haringey have picking up a bit of momentum heading into next weekend's Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup final. They beat the Chelmsford Warriors by 5-1 at Alexandra Palace. They're 5-0 up into the dying embers of the third in this one. Stephen Woodford, William Novick, Carl Etuazim, Martin Jazz and Ruskin Springer-Hughes with the Huskies goals. Robbie Dow spoiling the shutout for the Huskies and Petr Cech on this occasion. Shout out to Alexei Kolov with the 61 save performance as the lone netminder for the Warriors in that one. Rule 2 at BOTW: don't count out the Invicta Mustangs, and they'll be looking to try and do some business heading towards the playoffs themselves. A pretty comfortable 7-2 victory over the Slough Spitfire. Slough 2-0 up at the end of the first period before an offensive outburst, including a natural hat-trick from Joe Bliss in the middle of the period. Admittedly, he'd already scored, so it was his 4th goal, but the point still stands. He did score a natural back-to-back hat-trick in that one. James Laming, Sam Oliver and Ed Stedman with the other goals for the Mustangs in this one. And Slough, well, from bad to worse, having been 2-0 up and lost against Invicta on the Saturday night. Sunday, they lose 4-1 at home against Bristol Pitbulls 2. 2 goals from James Wood and 2 from Ollie Schoen, getting the points for Bristol in this one. Aaron Edworthy with the lone goal for the Spitfires in this one. In what was a full weekend of work for Connor Dudley, gets back-to-back starts. Doesn't get back-to-back help from his defence in this one. A 36 save performance at the other end for the Pitbulls too from Morgan Parsons. And then your eyes do not deceive you. Regular viewers know that whenever we get to South 2, we're generally looking towards 2 teams, and that is Peterborough and Guildford. And we know that Guildford have got 1 game left. That is against Peterborough in the league. But that little gap of light that was getting ever smaller suddenly gets a little bit wider, because the Oxford Rising Stars have thrown up a true banana skin and have beaten Peterborough at the Ox Pens to cause the problem. Peterborough 3-2 up early in the second period before eventually 3 back-to-back goals from the Rising Stars get them the win and dent Peterborough's title chances. Peterborough have been fantastic this year and have barely lost. This is, he says, double checking his maths. Yeah, it is only their second defeat in the league this season, which is pretty crackers to think about, given that they have been so dominant. They've only lost 3 games in all competitions, if you include the second leg of the cup final against Guildford, which they still won. Mike Willock, Matt Lorday, Joe Edwards, Dax Hedges and Kieran Wilson with the goals for the Rising Stars. James White, AJ Herring and Leo Markey with the goals for Phantoms 2 in this one. And it's ball still very much in the Phantoms 2 court, because they've got games where Guildford don't. However, the chance is still there. Still very, very much there for them. And as you can see there as well, Luke Clark having to make 42 saves in that one. Kayla Poole getting the win for the Rising Stars. This weekend then in South 2, Solent versus MK at 5 p.m. on Saturday down on the South Coast. Chelmsford versus Oxford. 7 p.m. in the league is Invicta versus Lee Valley. 5:30 p.m. the main event in South 2 this weekend. The Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup final at the Lee Valley Ice Arena. Phantoms 2 versus the Haringey Huskies. Just the 2 games in the league on Sunday. Bristol versus Haringey over in the southwest. MK take on the Cardiff Canucks. As we look at the table, as it says there, so it is Peterborough have got 2 games left in the league and trail Guildford by a point. One of those games for the Phantoms will be against Guildford. So we will see it's still very much in the Phantoms' court, given how good they've been this year. You wouldn't bet against them finally wrapping up the league title in South 2. However, you still have to win the games when it comes down to it. At the moment, only one playoff spot still not secured, and that is that 8th spot. Everybody in the top 7 is already in. Bristol lead the way with Slough just behind them, only 2 points back. So a regulation victory in the right direction would take Slough into the playoff spots. If Solent, as we can see, Solent and Lee Valley cannot make the postseason now. Chelmsford not mathematically out of it, but it would be a task for them to do so. The playoffs started today. You get Guildford versus Bristol, Peterborough versus Invicta, Haringey versus Cardiff, Milton Keynes versus Oxford, which would be a cracking tie. That's for certain. But still some work to be done on that one. We'll quickly press that button and take ourselves out of that, because we've gone all the way through all of the men's leagues. So we'll have a quick look at the women's leagues momentarily. And I need a drink because talking that much and not breathing properly always causes me slightly a problem. He says, doing his usual trick of just double checking that we haven't missed any of the really really big news. I do notice, of course, the various NEL teams. So certainly the Wildcats and the Bison are doing an Easter egg collection. If you're going to any of their games over the course of March, then you can take Easter eggs for sort of like giving to sort of local charities, or giving to kids who wouldn't get them otherwise. So if you are heading down, do pop one in if you've got the ability to do so. Just like I say, double checking. The other thing of note, if you are in Nottingham on Friday for their game against Fife, Tim Doherty, Panthers forward, one of the top scorers in the Elite League, also a diabetes sufferer. There was going to be a diabetes event after that game against Fife at the NIC. Tyler, would you come up to see your two favourite goalies in a playoff tie? Would I? Oh, I mean, the biggest issue, of course, for me, Tyler, is I've got the issue I have is I need to commentate, and it's a long way to go to D-side, and it's a long way to go to Widnes. What I want to do, what I would do is probably take one of my take my free weekend and see if I can do D-side versus Widnes. Actually, you know what? I've not been to Liverpool since I was a really, really small child, so I could do Liverpool and go do Widnes versus D-side. That might be one to do if we can figure out how that one works. Try and find a way to do a Friday game somewhere up north, and then do a Widnes versus D-side on a Saturday, or a D-side versus Widnes on a Saturday. That might be a lot of fun. One to put in the back, one to file into my plans for next year. Although, like I said, there's a bunch of places I do want to go, and I want to go back to Belfast. I still want to go to Billingham because I've not been to Billingham. Part of me wonders, because I've not been to Glasgow or Dundee or Fife, whether I should look at there. The thing for me is I just need to look at the fixtures and where they come out, and where the most sort of like the natural place to kind of go is. But would I come to see it in a playoff tie? If I can make it work and I wouldn't get shot, then yes. But the true trick is I just need to wait a couple of years, and you two will be against each other in the Elite League, Tyler. So it'll be fine. That's how that works, right? Just will that into existence. For sure. But yeah, a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff going in. But yeah, a D-side Widnes playoff tie, of course, would be hilarious. For if you've not read, We've Come a Long, Long Way Together, the hockey stories piece I did with Tyler Delapetouche and Luca Tasacci. Both of them have been in the chat this evening. It would be fascinating to see what would happen if only if only for just the sheer ludicrousness of what the two of them would be like together. You don't want to do Liverpool or Widnes, not a lovely sightseeing place. Yeah, but I mean, there are some bits to see in Liverpool, and as a Union man, the Union history of Liverpool would be really, really interesting. There's also a bunch of like really, really small non-league sides around that would be really, really fun to go and see as well. Albeit, I do want to get back to I want to get back into Wales, because I've now seen a game in the football league system of all of the constituent parts of the United Kingdom and of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and I've seen a game in the Irish in the league in the Republic, but I've not seen a game in the Welsh league. So what I could do is just try is hopefully Deeside versus Widnes on a day that like Buckley Town or Connors Quay or somebody are at home, so I can do one and then do the other, because the games in Wales will kick off at like 2:30. That might be the way to do it. The boys, Rossi from the Slapshot Syndicate is in. Yes, mate. Of course, the new Slapshot Syndicate episode out today. Do go check out the boys. Of course, me and Watty talked a fair bit about the boys from Slapshot over on that chat we had yesterday on 4,000 and counting. So yeah, we have a lot of love for the boys from Hull. Really enjoyed my time in Deeside. I really enjoyed my time in Deeside as well. If anybody's ever going up there, I know a really really good Airbnb in a room in the house of a lovely couple called Chris and Dave who will definitely look after you. That's for sure. That is for certain. They did a really good job. Here's how good that Airbnb was. When I came home from the Deeside Billingham game that I went to, where I walked through the door and didn't want to be too loud because I didn't know what they'd be doing, and they were watching the telly and said, "Would you like a beer?" So walked in and got given a beer. The only good thing in Widnes is the price of a kebab. Oh, Luca, never change, buddy. But yeah, so certainly that might be a good enough reason to come to Widnes. Yeah. Yes, Rossi. All went well. All went well. You can stick me and Nikki together, and we will talk for Britain between the two of us. Had a whale of a time. Go check that out. But yeah, what we need to do, we need to press that button. No, not that one. That button. Well done, Anthony. Good start. And then we will also get up the fantastic notes from. So of course the SNL bits and pieces. He says skipping back. SNL Ice Hockey updates on Facebook. Connor does really, really good work, so make sure to go and support his page, like the page, check out all the bits and pieces that come out from them. What I need to do is I need to get up the notes, because our WNHL update is currently provided to me by the fantastic Mr. Andrew Day. Andrew Day, of course, Andrew Day 111. Hockey page for bits and pieces, should you be so interested. He's done fantastic work this year, really focused in on doing coverage of the WNIHL in a way that not a lot of people are doing, so I think that's worked out really well for Andrew, because he's really carved out a niche as a result. Women's Elite League, some really really big games of course, and what we've seen is the top two have started to pull away a little bit, although they're still being pegged back ever so slightly. But it was a big game at Holsmet Road on Saturday, and a big win for the Solihull Vixens, 4-2 win over the Whitley Bay Beacons. Jodie Alderson-Smith, Erin Roche, Meg Burton and Katie Henry with the goals for the Vixens. Caitlin Morrison with both goals for Whitley Bay in this one in the lone game on Saturday. The Queen Bees though still very much in the title race. They're 4-0 win in Bristol over the Huskies. Estelle Ip, Miley Drazy and 2 goals from Catherine Gale for the Queen Bees. It should be noted here, and Andrew's put this in his notes. Alicia O'Doherty with the shutout for the Queen Bees, only facing 7 shots. At the other end, Sophie Benson, who is 15 years old, who's usually the backup, but with Gemma Davis not playing in this game. Sophie Benson makes 72 saves on 76 shots at the age of 15. Fair play, young lady. That is a hell of a performance. Well done, you. Elsewhere at the Spectrum, a comfortable win for the Guildford Lightning. 11-1 victory over the Streatham Storm. We don't have a scorer for the Storm in this one, but we do have the goals for the Lightning. A hat-trick for Margot Sayer, 2 goals each for Beth Hill and Isabella Zidienska. The other goals coming from Alice Jones, Izzy Eggington, Lydia Walsh and Cara Jones. The Women's Elite League table at the moment does look like this. The Queen Bees now top, 2 points clear of the Solihull Vixens with a game in hand. Guildford 4 points back of the Queen Bees, having also played 14 games. Whitley Bay have played 17 games and they're down on 18 points. They dropped down to 4th, having been leapfrogged by the Lightning. Streatham still in 5th. Bristol still in 6th at the moment as it stands. WNHL North won just the one game at the weekend, and a 5-3 victory on the road for the Solway Sharks over the Widnes Wild. Cassie McGregor, Emma Duffy, Emma Miller, Megan MacArthur and Amanda Murdoch with the goals for the Sharks in their win. Lydia Lutwich, Lise Gillen and Linda Decker with the Widnes Wild goals. Just the one fixture this weekend in North 1. Sheffield versus the Caledonia Steel Queens is 4:20 this weekend this Saturday afternoon at Ice Sheffield. As it stands, Kingston Diamonds still top of WNHL 1 North, 23 points. Steel Queens are on 21, Sheffield on 15. So what this was a good one, a solid win for the Sharks in terms of hopefully pushing them a bit further up the table. Widnes, bottom of NHL 1 North still. They are on 2 points from all their games played. The other games on Sunday, in North 1. Kingston versus Sheffield. Widnes will take on Solway again this coming Sunday. Into South 1, some pretty lopsided score lines in South 1 this weekend. The Firebees with a 12-1 victory over the Streatham Storm. 5 goals in this one for Rebecca Wozlinski. A hat-trick for May Sullivan. Izzy Eckington with 2 goals. The others coming from Freya Price and Daisy Duval. Augusta Tomasev Vichuti. We'll go for that. Apologies, Augusta, for not for the pronunciation there. With the lone goal for the Streatham Storm. Congratulations as well, May Sullivan. That is her first senior hat-trick in women's play. Top Cats still top of South from Swindon, still top of South 1. The Firebees trail them by 7 points. They have played 2 games less at the moment. The other game from South 1, a 6-2 victory for the Swindon Top Cats over the Chelmsford Cobras. 2 goals apiece for Ellie Wallace and Lily Endicott. Mila Peroni and Natalia Roldan-Merck with the other goals for the Top Cats. Teresa Plankova and Collie Fiddler with the goals for the Cobras in that one. Just the one game in South 1 this weekend. Swindon Top Cats versus Streatham Storm 2. That is 1:10 this coming. Andrew's not put the day, but it's this weekend. It's either Saturday or Sunday at the Link Centre in that one. North 2 Valerie 6-0 victory for Kingston Diamonds 2 over Sheffield Shadows 2 in the Yorkshire. And in that Yorkshire derby, a hat-trick for Carla Clark. The other goals coming from Eva Rosé, Susanna Pearson and Jessica Hacking. The other game in North 2, Valerie, 5-0 victory for the Blackburn Hawks over the Telford Wrekin Raiders. We don't have the scores from that one. Raiders still bottom of the table in North 2. Whitley Bay Beacons 2 still top of North 2. Valerie, they have a 6-point cushion over Kingston Diamonds 2. One game in that division this weekend. Blackburn Hawks will take on Kingston Diamonds. That's at 4:55. Over in Lancashire. What I need to do is I need to scroll through Andrew's bits and pieces here because I want to get to North 2 Elizabeth, because as you can see at the bottom, a pretty comfortable win for the Caledonia Steel Queen Bees over the Leeds Thorns, 14-1. In a very lopsided score up in Scotland. Thea Phillips with a hat-trick, 2 goals apiece for Georgie Day and Katie Gorton Phillips and Elise Blakely. I'll get that right. My apologies, Elise. Maya Cartledge, Emily Campus, Chelsea Stinson, Remy Dowsett and Molly McGillan with the other goals for the Steel Queen Bees in that game. Lucy Hurst with the lone goal for the Leeds Thorns. 2 games this weekend in North 2 Valerie. Kingston Diamonds 3 versus Caledonia Steel Queens. Kingston Diamonds 3 versus Caledonia Steel Queen Bees is 12:30 in Hull on Saturday. Manchester Storm Women versus Kingston Diamonds 3 is 7:15 p.m. at the Storm Shelter this coming Sunday. We skip back up through Andrew's notes for South 2 Valerie, because a busy weekend there. 3 games in South 2 Valerie, and because you still get them in women's hockey, a tie, 2 apiece at the Oxpence between the Oxford Midnight Stars and the Chelmsford Pythons. Lauren Summers and Jodie West Attrell with the Midnight Stars goals. Both goals for Chelmsford coming from Kezia Birchall. And then Sunday's game, Solent Amazons with a 4-3 victory over the Cardiff Comets down on the south coast. 2 goals from Miranda Brown. The other goals coming from Lucy Gates and Louise Beresford. Cardiff's goals coming from Amy Cannon, Molly Lehman and Liv Taylor. Elsewhere at Alexandra Palace, a comfortable win for the Haringey Greyhounds. They beat the Slough Sirens by 8-3. 2 goals from Josie Minton. The other goals coming from Miri Pomeranz, Yami Manchanda Corliss, Jade Jones, Eleanor Worth, Clementine Chandler, and one scorer unknown to us. The Slough goals coming from Robin Alder, Esther Haskins, and Emma Toos. The Greyhounds and the Midnight Stars tied on 18 points at the moment. The Greyhounds are top of the table as it stands. what we need to do, because it is there, and I can see Dave has already popped up in the chat to mention it. Cambridge Kodiaks 2-1, Lee Valley Vampires 0. The first ever league win and the first ever league points for the Cambridge Kodiaks 2. Natalia Piotovic with the goal that seals the first points for the for Kodiaks 2. Congratulations to the ladies there on that result. The other game in South to Elizabeth, a 3-0 victory on the road for MK Falcons 2 over Bristol Huskies 2. Erin Russell with 2 goals, Freya Poole with the other goal for the MK Falcons. Just one game in South to Elizabeth this weekend. The Vampires back in action against Kodiaks 2. So they will repeat the dance, this time at Lee Valley, 5 p.m. on Sunday at the Lee Valley Ice Arena for that one. Top Cats versus Storm Sunday at 1:10 p.m. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Andrew. And then into the under 16s leagues in the north, a 3-3 tie up in Scotland between the Caledonia Iron Maidens and the Leeds Junior Knights. Molly McKinnon, Zoe Dixon, and Drew Henderson with the goals for the hosts. Esme Gibson, Vakari, Vitala Fikute. Deary me, I really need to get some of these pronunciations down. And Georgie Brennan Yates with the goals for Leeds in that one. A much more lopsided game up at Hillheads. Whitley Bay beating Kingston by 15 goals to 2. Eva Reze with the goals for the Kingston Diamonds under 16s in this one. For Whitley Bay, Evie May Tyndall with 7 goals. In this one, Molly Walker with 4, Heidi Dunn with 2, Holly Smith with 1, and 1 unknown goal scorer as it stands at the moment. Fixtures in the under 16s North this weekend: Sheffield versus Leeds at 12:40 at Ice Sheffield on Saturday. Manchester Storm versus Kingston is 5:45 on Sunday. And then the last games to look at: under 16s in the under 16s in the south. Just the one game. The London Haringey Hounds losing at home by 5 goals to 1 against the Chelmsford Rattlesnakes. Alice McMahon with the lone goal for the hosts. Freya Price with 2. Zinnia Quilter, Natalie Wilson, and Tilly Howe with the goals for the Rattlesnakes. Haringey will be back in action this coming Saturday, 4:55. Ali Pally against the Bristol Huskies Puppies. And on Sunday, the Swindon Top Kittens take on the Midlands Wrekin Raiders. That's a 5:50 face-off at the Link Centre. Just the one other game from the Frank Wright Development Conference in the West. The Oxford Shining Stars with a 7-0 victory over the Coventry Phoenix Rising. Ruby Barrett with 2 goals. Gail Wilson, Atlas Ashworth, Debbie Evans, Lucy Hood, and Karen Featonby with the goals for the Oxford Shining Stars. Andrew has pointed out, big game on Saturday in the Elite. Queen Bees versus Solihull. Royal Rumble Family Night at Slough. £5 for an adult ticket. It should be an absolute cracker of a game as the top 2 go head to head in a game that will help decide the location, no doubt, of the WNHL Elite League title. And there we go. We have done all of it, every game from every senior division, men's and women's across Great Britain, here where British Hockey lives on the BOTW What's Current stream. We have done the lot. We opened the door. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything anybody wants to chuck into the chat, throw it in now before we head out for the end of the evening. I'm going to press that button and move that email because Andrew's notes have done their job. We have a quick look at what's going on in the Cup final at the moment, and still 2-1 on the night between the Knights still leading 2-1 on the evening. It's still 4-3 Steel Dogs on aggregate, and you know that one's going to start getting tense and getting tight before too long. Of course, we've had trade deadline in the NHL, a few moves and bits and pieces. Luke Shen, of course, on the move. Some bits and pieces from a Washington Capitals perspective. John Carlson going to Anaheim was a thing that happened, and I still can't quite believe it actually did happen. However, such is the way of things. Leeds might have put themselves in a bit of trouble here, because I can just see, because Phil Harrison from the Yorkshire Evening Post is obviously live tweeting this game. 45-43, Matt Bissonnette takes a 2+2 for high sticks. And you have to think that if Sheffield score on this, that could potentially be the cup final secured for them. But that is a big moment in this cup final, and all eyes, I think, to Sheffield and what's going on there at the moment. A tense affair as it stands right now. Of course, what else have we seen? Swindon picked up the National Division trophy and broke it. A handle falling off. It is very interesting to see everybody tilting the trophy in different directions to make sure that the missing handle isn't in their photographs. But such is the way of the world. There's a question for you, Andrew. Yes, do you know who Elizabeth or Valerie are? It was explained. It was explained, I think, on the England Ice Hockey website at some stage. But yes, I'm struggling to remember. It was explained, and I'm desperately trying to remember who they did name them after. Because of course they are named after women who have women who contributed greatly to British hockey. But I'm just, like I say, their exact names I'm just struggling to remember exactly right at this particular moment, and I do apologise for that. It's one of those things where it's in there, and I need to pull. I need to pull them out. I need to pull it out, and Andrew will hopefully be able to find that out for us. But yeah, so lots of, like I say, I did get a photo with the trophy in the Harvey. No, I wasn't smart enough to cover up the fact that they had 50% less handles than it should have. No, I've seen those photographs. Tom. And to be fair, I don't particularly blame anybody for not trying too hard. I don't know if you've already spoken about it, but interested to know what you think about the Dominic Jaglar and his Facebook advertisement about himself. So for folk who haven't seen this, Dominic Jaglar, who is a dual national Czech and British goalie, he spent most of his life in Scotland. It was picked up for the fact that he had advertised himself in a goalie group looking for a place to play, preferably North America next year. Jaglar is the third netminder at the Dundee Stars. Of course, has time playing in Solway, has time playing in the SNL for Dundee. I think he's played for Aberdeen as well, off the top of my head. But it was picked up the fact that he had put out there that he was looking for a team for next season. And what do I think about it? I think he potentially thought he was posting in a more private Facebook group than he actually thought. But I don't blame the fact that he spent a year being a third goalie at Dundee on a team that has not played very well, has missed the playoffs. He's barely got any time to speak of behind Emil Cruz and Bloomin' Evans, the other goal whose name has gone right out of my head, Jarrett Fisk, behind Jarrett Fisk and Emil Cruz, when really it feels like the absolute perfect time to be playing Dominic Jaglar, because why not play him now? In that sort of sense, Luca. Do I blame him for looking around for a situation? Well, no, because given the age he is, he's at that point where he's got 1 year of junior eligibility left, and he wants to see if he can get himself some really sustained game time somewhere else. I don't necessarily think that's a problem. I do think he probably should have checked whether it was in a public or a private group, though, because now everybody knows he wants out of Dundee. So yeah, that's but all things considered, given the change that is happening in Dundee, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. Valerie Wilkinson and Elizabeth Morley. So actually, the names we have in the NIHL are made into the WNIHL as well, which I think is pretty awesome. Thank you, Andrew, for putting that in there. For those of you who are listening in the background, WNHL 2 level, there are 4 divisions, 2 in the north and 2 in the south. Divisions are once again named after fantastic sports of WNIHL and women's hockey, Valerie Wilkinson and Elizabeth Morley. Well, there you go. So there is the answer on that front. Instead of having a Wilkinson division and a Morley division in the women's game, which would confuse people, you have Valerie and Elizabeth. So it all works out in the end in that sense. But yeah, I don't think it's like I say, I've got no issue with it, because if you're not getting game time and you want to play, you go look for someone to play. But maybe not quite so public on that front. Might be would be my polite recommendation to Mr. Yaglar next time, because he did get picked up by everybody, even to the point where it ended up in my Facebook feed because it was a public facing group. So what do you want to say about that one? I think is what you do there. Penalty ticking along still for the Steel Dogs. They need to find a way to try and get the puck in the back of the net. You have to think. Just double checking. No immediate other news I can see poking up at the moment. Nothing else that's there. But like I say, plenty of some interesting bits and pieces as you can see this weekend. Those Sheffield Belfast games going to be huge in the Elite League. Of course, we've now got that run in that game between Romford and Solway. Could potentially be very, very huge come the end of this weekend in the National Division for that last playoff spot. As Andrew has put, Queen Bees versus Vixens this weekend in the WNIHL Elite. That's going to be a really, really big game in the context of bits and pieces there. We've got both Division 1 titles already secure. We've got North 2 sorted. We should see what happens with South 2 in the coming weeks. But of course, playoff positions still very much there to be played for. Though you think North 1 should pretty much be wrapped up before too long. It just looks like it'll be a little bit beyond Leeds this time around. This is what I get for looking at bits and pieces, and there we go. Well, you say that, but it can take a long time to play 4 minutes worth of hockey. But yeah, certainly nothing else has popped up on my feed, so we will assume that penalty has been killed. Actually, I wonder if I click on Game Shoot. If I press there, no, it has indeed expired. Because it is marked as both marked as being ended, as it were, but a bad time for Leeds to take a penalty there. Matt Bissonnette captaining the side tonight in the absence of Kieran Brown, because it's obviously a very injury hit Leeds side at the moment. Frankie O'Sullivan playing in the cup final for tonight for the Knights. Danny Harrison into the lineup as well. So and Jonas Bennett playing on the back end too. So lots of the youngsters getting an opportunity tonight in a really, really big game for Leeds. Where are we? It says it's 34. It's 35 on one clock and 37 on another. Last call. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings. Anything else you want to chuck in before we call time tonight? Please do. If nothing else, we will then head out. A Friday Sunday weekend for the Flames. So I've got a Sunday game. Good in some ways. Having a sort of a full Saturday at home is always a really nice thing. It just gives us a bit of an opportunity. If nothing else, like I say, get to watch Gladiators all together, which is good fun. But it's always a good sort of interesting thing to just have a Saturday. It's interesting, isn't it? The Saturday is such a quiet, so quiet in the Elite League, but it does all mean we should be able to sit down, keep some tabs. And there it is, the goal that potentially could seal the cup for the Sheffield Steel Dogs. Walker Summer from Bear Gendenov from Jonathan Phillips at 51-14. That makes it 5-3 on aggregate. And the mountain for the Knights has just gotten a little bit possibly too big to climb right now. But that is a huge goal. Couldn't get it done on that extended power play, but eventually have found a way to get the puck past Sam Gospel and could potentially be staring down the barrel of a trophyless Leeds Knights season. We will find out before too long, but we will keep our eyes because it's not done yet. It's not over till it's over. But the Sheffield Steel Dogs with firmly one hand on the NIHL National Division Cup as it stands. Like I say, just give it folk another moment or two just to get in the last bits and pieces they want to say. Like I say, we'll be back next Wednesday night to do it all again, keeping tabs on the Elite League Challenge Cup final between Nottingham and Coventry, and of course doing what we usually do, which is go through all of the news and everything from across British hockey, which will be lots of fun. And then, like I said, 25th
we'll blow up the format for a night and just try and get some guests in, get some folk to come in, and just we'll have a bit of a knock around, celebrate 15 years of BOTW with a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke, rather than focusing too hard and just doing all of these bits and pieces. Should be a good laugh, I think, if and do things that way as we go. We'll see what we can muster for in a couple of weeks' time. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now I can just see as well that the Steel Dogs have taken a too many men penalty, which is going to be an interesting one for the next moment or two, just to keep things interesting. Either way, I think we will call it there so we can all go watch the end of that game. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to British hockey. Follow my journey through commentating in the Elite League, through In the Box Thinking, your thoughts, your insight and analysis from high atop the Guildford spectrum as we follow the Guildford Flames throughout this season. And of course, the other bits and pieces, check out our Hockey Stories series, long form in-depth pieces of content that take you inside and tell some great stories from across the world of British ice hockey and beyond, from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war and beyond. Do go check out our latest piece, of course, Setting the Tone, with Brad Bonello, former Edinburgh Capital and one of the cast of Shoresy. Of course, and like I say, we are 14 years and 50 weeks deep into this, so plenty of bits and pieces to check out over on the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Head down into the description, links to all of our socials. We're on X, we're on Facebook, we're on Blue Sky, and of course the link to our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Never going behind the paywall, but if you like what you get and you want to help contribute to the upkeep of what goes on here, keep the lights on and keep the wheels spinning, you can do that over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. And of course, all of the usual YouTube stick. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, share it with your friends. And of course, there's plenty of stuff on here, not just the streams, but you've got all the sort of interview bits and pieces to check out there too. There's a playlist to check those out if you want to. And then of course, Wednesday night, 8 PM, you can come back here to where British hockey lives. Every single game from across every senior division, men's and women's, across this great land for over the last week or so. You can do that here Wednesday nights, 8 PM, only on the BOTW What's Current stream. Well, there we go. Let's head out and let's see what happens. The National Division Cup is about to be decided. It's heading somewhere in Yorkshire. We'll find out where it's about to head in the next couple of minutes, and then we can crack on with another great weekend of hockey. Be happy, and if you can't be happy, then wherever you are, please do everything you can to please be safe. As my friend Scotty Watts would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe, and so long till next time. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll join you back